Good evening. Welcome to a place of peace and quiet, to a world of gentle currents and soft, artificial sunsets. Tonight's story is a long and calming journey to a place unlike any other, a hidden sanctuary beneath the waves. So, wherever you are, make yourself comfortable. Let your body grow heavy and your mind grow light. Settle into your pillows, pull your blankets close, and let the day's worries drift away. There is nothing you need to do now, nothing you need to think about. Just listen to the sound of my voice and let your imagination gently float along. And once you're all settled in, you can close your eyes. The city of Aqualantis is unlike any other city in the world. If you were to wake up in one of its cozy apartments, you might, for a moment, think you were in a bustling metropolis above the water. You might look out your window and see towers of glass and steel, reaching up, not towards a sky of blue, but towards a ceiling of shimmering, liquid blue. The gentle, constant hum of life would be there. The soft murmur of millions of people beginning their day, a sound as steady and soothing as the ocean itself. If you were in the finest penthouse suite, at the very corner of Serenity Street and Ocean View Avenue, your view would be a beautiful mosaic of the world's wonders. You might see the elegant spire of the Parisian district and the proud, art deco lines of the New York inspired towers, all from the same window. On a short walk, you could marvel at the Needle, like Tower from Toronto, the dancing architecture of a Prague, inspired square, and the graceful arch of a St. Louis replica. But what truly sets Aqualantis apart is the sky. Or rather, what isn't there. You would never see clouds gathering for a storm. You would never feel a drop of rain or a gust of wind that wasn't lovingly, carefully created by the city's gentle climate systems. Since its founding in the 24th century, every day in Aqualantis has been perfectly mild, perfectly calm. It is the world's first great underwater city, a masterpiece of cooperation and engineering, voted the most serene and beautiful destination for 50 years running. The founders chose a name that meant hidden water, a tribute to the mythical city that inspired its creation. Aqualantis. The light is artificial, a soft, programmable glow that replicates the gentle rise and setting of the sun. Most food is imported, but there are farms at the city's edge that grow enough fresh greens and fruits to feed everyone. It is a self-contained world of peace. An old man named Elias was among the first generation to be born in Aqualantis. His parents had moved here from the world above, from a sunny country called Portugal. When Elias was a boy, he would beg his parents for stories of the world above. They would tell him of vast forests, of mountains that scraped the real sky, of deserts that stretched for miles under a burning sun. He dreamed of seeing it all. But as he grew, that dream softened, faded, and was replaced by a deep love for his own city. He had seen the world above in films and books, and he decided that his home, Aqualantis, was the most beautiful place of all. Elias had worked as a window cleaner for almost 50 years. Every morning, a message would arrive with a list of locations where the great glass dome needed cleaning, both inside and out. For half a century, he had driven his quiet electric cart through every district, down every side road, along every curve of the immense bubble that protected them all. He knew the city better than anyone. He knew where to find the most delicious, buttery croissant in the Parisian Quarter. He knew which rooftop garden in the Tokyo inspired district offered the best view of the passing schools of silver fish. He loved his job because it sent him to a new corner of the city every day, allowing him to hear the gentle chatter of a dozen languages, to smell the spices of 100 different cuisines. But now, he was just months away from retirement. He looked forward to days spent on the sandy beaches of the Lisbon district, simply listening to the recorded calls of seagulls and watching the eternal ballad of marine life swim by. But first, he had one last duty: to train his replacement. On the day he was to meet his successor, Elias's soft chime alarm sounded at 5 o'clock. He took a deep, slow breath and let the sound fade. When it chimed a second time, he slowly rose from his bed, his knees whispering a familiar complaint, and walked to the window. The main artificial lights hadn't yet brightened to mimic dawn, but the glow from the street lamps below cast a soft, blue light around his small apartment. He lived in the Chicago district, the only part of the city where large, silent fans created a soft, artificial breeze, rustling the leaves of the trees that lined the walkways. It was the closest one could get to feeling the wind. Elias made a simple breakfast of oats and milk from the city's dairy farms, sprinkling in some dried, sweet seaweed for flavor. After a cool shower, he dressed in his soft, worn denim overalls, his name stitched over the heart. By the time he stepped outside, the city lights were warming to a gentle morning glow. The streets were quiet, save for the faint whir of a delivery vehicle. He looked up, through the layers of glass, to where the real sun was beginning to light the ocean above, turning the water a pale, serene green. He walked the parking garage, got into his cart, and drove through the Cape Town district, into the Prague-inspired squares, and onto the wide, quiet freeway that led toward the Parisian sector. He turned on the audio system, and as he passed into each new district, the gentle music and news reports seamlessly switched languages. He drove until he reached his favorite place, the Lisbon district. It was built around a calm, artificial harbor that met the edge of the Great Dome, where soft white sand pretended to meet an ocean. There was no water on this beach, just the sand leading right up to the glass, where the real ocean began. Elias drove slowly down the cobblestone streets, past white buildings with red, orange roofs. Shopkeepers, sweeping their steps, waved to him with warm smiles. He was a familiar sight. He parked near his favorite cafe. The owner, a kind woman named Sophia, smiled. "Bom dia, Elias," she said, already preparing his small, strong coffee and buttering a slice of fresh bread. They had been friends for years. She had come from Nigeria with her husband, an engineer working on a new expansion to the city. No one knew what the new district would be, but Elias hoped it might be Buenos Aires, after seeing pictures of its colorful streets. Elias spent a peaceful half-hour with his coffee and bread, reading the local news. A group of children ran past, kicking a ball, their laughter echoing like soft bells. The sound filled Elias with a deep calm. After his breakfast, he drove to the edge of the beach, parked his cart, and walked barefoot to the very edge where sand met glass. Seagulls glided overhead inside the dome. He sat in the sand, drawing his knees to his chest, and just watched. Outside, thousands of small, blue fish drifted past, their scales catching the light. A sea turtle paddled by, peering in with ancient, curious eyes. He inhaled the faint, briny scent of salt water that drifted from small nozzles in the sand. This was his meditation. After a few moments of perfect peace, he gathered his cleaning supplies. A bucket of water, a soft brush, a long, retractable squeegee, and began his work. He cleaned the glass in long, smooth, rhythmic strokes, and as he worked, he inspected every inch for any sign of weakness. In 50 years, he had found only one tiny, superficial flaw. He was working on a second section when he felt a presence behind him. He turned. A boy stood there, perhaps 16, with a warm complexion and dark, curious eyes. He looked a little nervous, but earnest. "You must be my new assistant," Elias said, his voice kind. The boy nodded and shook Elias's hand. His name was Mateo, he said. He was being homeschooled by his parents, who had just moved to Aqualantis from the world above, from a city called Porto. They wanted him to work in the mornings. Elias saw a flicker of himself in the shy boy. He showed Mateo how to inspect the glass, how to shine a light at a shallow angle to check for imperfections. They worked together all morning, their movements falling into a quiet rhythm. Elias showed him the best techniques. Always start high and work down. Use gentle, circular motions with the soapy brush. Follow with the squeegee in one smooth, continuous pull. By noon, the beach had begun to fill with people. Families spread out towels. Couples walked hand in hand, leaving temporary prints in the sand. The air filled with the soft murmur of many languages. Mateo watched Elias's every move with rapt attention. When they stopped for lunch, sitting on a towel Elias had brought, Elias asked, "Tell me about Porto." Mateo's face lit up. He described it as the most beautiful city in the world, with a river lined with wine cellars, and a famous iron bridge with breathtaking views. "What do you think of it here?" Elias asked. Mateo hesitated. "It's nice, but I still worry. Being underwater." Elias chuckled softly. He picked up a smooth stone and tossed it at the glass dome. It tapped harmlessly and bounced back. "There are 3 feet of the strongest glass ever made, between us and the ocean, Mateo. We are safer here than anywhere up there. We never worry about storms." As they spoke, a woman approached, carrying a woven basket. She introduced herself as Mateo's mother. She had brought them a thermos of rich coffee, freshly grilled sardines, and warm, homemade bread. She asked how her son was doing, and Elias assured her he was a fine, careful worker. Her eyes held the same concern as her son's. She seemed to miss her home deeply, and she described Porto with such love: the red tile roofs, the taste of fresh ham and cheese, the sound of music in the streets at night. Elias, in turn, told her of the wonders of Aqualantis. The night walks along the Han River in the Seoul district, the smell of fresh bread in the Parisian quarter, the awe of seeing a humpback whale glide silently past the dome. After they ate, Mateo's mother said goodbye, and the two returned to their work. Then they found it. A section of the glass was covered on the outside by a magnificent octopus. Its body was the size of a small car, its tentacles thick and powerful, each suction cup clearly visible. It clung to the glass, regarding them with an intelligent, almost bored expression. Mateo laughed. "I guess we have to clean behind it." Elias smiled. "We do indeed, and that means we have to go out there." The Mateo's eyes widened. "Outside? How?" "I'll show you," Elias said, his voice filled with a quiet excitement. This was his favorite part of the job. They drove across the city to the New York inspired district, to a building that looked like a crystal palace. The submarine port. It was the main entrance and exit for the city. Inside, it was like a calm, quiet airport. Elias led Mateo past the waiting areas to a special section for city workers. There, he helped Mateo into a lightweight scuba suit, showing him how to check the air tank and regulator. They stepped into a small, dark airlock chamber, the inner door sealed behind them. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, with a soft, gurgling rush, water filled the chamber, rising gently until it reached their necks, then covered them completely. The outer door slid open, and they were floating in the silent, weightless world of the open ocean. All sound vanished, replaced by the quiet, rhythmic sound of their own breathing. A school of small, curious fish darted around them, their scales brushing softly against their suits. Elias gave Mateo a thumbs up, and the boy returned it, his eyes wide with wonder behind his mask. They pushed off from the airlock and began to swim along the curve of the great city. Elias led the way, his movements slow and fluid. He pointed out the forests of colorful coral that grew around the city's base, a rainbow of reds, oranges, and purples, home to countless tiny, brightly colored fish. A squid jetted past, its tentacles trailing behind like streamers. A sea turtle, even larger than the one they saw before, swam alongside them for a while, its flippers moving with a slow, graceful power. Elias found the spot where the octopus had been. The glass was left with a faint, slippery residue. He handed the long, handled squeegee to Mateo and guided his hand, showing him how to clean the outer glass. Mateo worked carefully, his movements becoming more confident. While Mateo worked, Elias let himself drift. He looked up toward the surface, far above, where the real sunlight filtered down in great, shimmering pillars of light. The water changed color from a deep, mysterious blue around them to a bright, cheerful aqua near the surface. It was the most peaceful place he knew. He felt like he was floating in space, utterly separate from all worries, all noise, all rush. A dolphin appeared, swimming playfully around them. It nudged Elias gently with its nose, a friendly, curious push. Elias smiled and followed it a little way toward the light before turning back to check on Mateo. Mateo was staring in awe at a passing school of jellyfish, their bodies pulsing with a soft, internal light. He looked back at Elias, and even with the regulator in his mouth, Elias could see his enormous, joyful smile. Elias motioned for Mateo to follow him. They swam upward along the side of the dome until they were level with the tops of the tallest skyscrapers. From here, they could see the entire city laid out beneath them, like a living map. It was laid out like a giant wheel. A central circular park was surrounded by a ring of 8 inner districts, and then a larger ring of 16 outer districts. Each wedge of the wheel was a different world. They floated over the London district, where the great Ferris wheel turned slowly. They drifted over the Beijing district, a forest of modern towers dotted with traditional temple roofs. They saw the Madrid district, a neat grid of low, sandstone buildings with a huge stadium at its heart. They saw the Rome district, with its ancient, looking Colosseum standing in stark contrast to the sleek glass around it. Elias pointed out his own home, the Chicago district, with its familiar fan-made breezes. From this incredible vantage point, it was easy to see why Aqualantis was considered so beautiful. It was the entire world collected into one serene, harmonious, and breathtaking place. Mateo tapped Elias's shoulder and gave him a double thumbs up. his eyes shining with new understanding. He wasn't afraid anymore. He was amazed. After what felt like both a moment and an eternity, they swam back to the airlock, re-entered, and shed their gear. The world of sound returned. The soft hum of the ventilation, the distant echo of voices. "So," Elias said, his voice a gentle rumble, "what do you think of our city now?" Mateo laughed, his nervousness completely gone. "You were right, Elias. It's incredible. I want to see it all. Every single district." Elias smiled, a warm, satisfied feeling spreading through him. The boy would be just fine. He would learn the city, and he would love it, just as Elias had. As the artificial sunlight began to soften into a warm, orange sunset glow, Elias drove to the London district. He bought a ticket for the Ferris wheel and rode it to the very top. As his car reached its peak, he looked out over the entirety of Aqualantis, bathed in the gentle, dreamy light of the simulated sunset. The glass dome above turned gold and pink with the reflected light. He thought of Mateo's stories of Porto and his own lifelong dream to see the world above. He realized that while Aqualantis was his home, his beautiful, peaceful underwater world, the desire to see a real sunset, to feel a real breeze, had never truly left him. And that was okay. Perhaps, in his retirement, he would. He would see the cities that had inspired his own. But for now, in this perfect, quiet moment, he was exactly where he needed to be. And on that quiet note, our journey to Aqualantis comes to a gentle close. The city sleeps under its blanket of ocean. The lights dim to a soft, star-like glow. Elias dreams of future travels, and Mateo dreams of exploring his new home. All is calm. All is peaceful. Let this sense of weightlessness, of quiet wonder, carry you into a deep and restful sleep. Your breathing is slow. Your body is heavy and relaxed. Your mind is quiet. You are safe. You are warm. And you are drifting gently towards dreams. Good night. Sleep well, and sweet dreams.